Hello and welcome to Beyond the Pages. My name is Penny Delaney Cothran. I am the Multimedia Manager at the South Carolina Chamber of Commerce and the editor of South Carolina Business Magazine. And it is my pleasure to be here in Blythewood, South Carolina, speaking with Jerry Sweetland, who is the plant manager at Pure Power. So Jerry, tell me about Pure Power. What is it that you make here and why?
We make diesel fuel injectors, some examples sitting in front, and some other components for diesel engines, but primarily it's diesel injectors. We provide the parts for the engines for Navistar, who's our parent company, and then their engines traditionally go into their vehicles, which sell as commercial vehicles, Class 8, on highway.
Oh, wow. Okay. So tell me about your relationship with your parent star company.
We're a wholly owned subsidiary, so 100% owned, but we're a limited liability corporation.
Okay.
We don't share the same name to be able for us to branch out into a few additional markets, but our primary customer is Navistar.
Okay. So why are you here in South Carolina? Why was South Carolina selected for this facility?
We were, I think, pretty heavily recruited when the plant first started back in '99, and there was a big economic push as there is today. And South Carolina was selected as the destination state. Now I was just figuring out where. I think Boeing anchored the upstate, and you had one of our competitors, primary competitors, that was in Charleston. So smack dab in the middle of Columbia was a real good choice for us. So at the time frame, we were one of the larger employees when it came in.
So you've been here since the beginning?
Very beginning. I was the 6th employee.
Oh.
Yeah, so I was a friend and mentor, came down from Detroit, and so I was here when there wasn't even a building. It was just 2 phone lines and a fax. So I got to see a lot of change over the years.
So tell me what this facility looks like when it's humming at full capacity in terms of input, output, etc.
Well, we're capable of doing around 4 million injectors a year with probably well over 500 employees, which roughly would equate to probably $250 million in revenue annually.
Significant.
Yeah.
And what challenges have you faced along the way?
I think a lot of employers would share it. It's the, I wouldn't say retention, but finding individuals or the right employees to be a part of the company. The economic development groups, as well as the current administration, has done a great job of bringing advanced manufacturing jobs into the state. Mm-hmm. It's finding and securing really that talent has been a pretty big challenge for us.
So it's the pipeline coming to you.
It really is. I think we have a very good retention rate, and it's generally a really good place to work. I think people are happy here. We go out of our way in order to make sure that people are happy here as well. It's just difficult when you have a lot of competition coming in the area. It's good for the state.
Good for the state.
And it's good for the employees. It's just sometimes difficult.
Challenging for the employer. That's I hear you. What are some of the other economic variables that weigh on you? What kind of things affect your line?
Really, quite honestly, it's even if you look at major economic variables, stock market or inflation, as long as the unemployment rate is low and stock market is doing well, that means people are buying trucks. And
okay.
If they're generally buying trucks, then we're selling injectors. We have a heavy service business too, so really we're servicing engines that are already sold. So it really insulates us from a lot of those economic barriers because the product is already sold. It's just natural time where service parts are going to be required, and
okay.
We're more than happy to ship more injectors.
So you just sit very comfortably in that lifetime of the truck engine.
And the interesting part about diesel engines is they're generally overbuilt because it's a compression cycle, and the warranties on these engines could be upwards of 1 million miles.
Oh wow!
So yeah, they have a really long longevity. So if we have a particular model that sells a lot of engines, then we'll be making service parts for 10, 20 years.
Okay, very cool.
That is an advantage. There are obviously some disadvantages.
Well, you spoke earlier about what's good for South Carolina isn't always necessarily what's good for you. Are there any other issues that you feel the united voice of business at the Chamber can help you with? Probably something in the lines of, property rights or, working on that pipeline, the skilled labor, workforce issues.
Yeah, the big for us is making sure that South Carolina is poised, to be able to supply. Really, it's the term that's utilized. I'm not a big fan of it. Is middle skill. It's that 2-year degree or technical degree that exists, and really, it's one of the more critical employees that we have out on the shop floor. They're the ones that really make things continue to run smoothly in terms of output. They're generally the mechanics or the electricians or the controls technicians that are working on the machines directly. We do a really good job of promoting 4-year schools, I think, in this country, and more specifically in our state. We don't necessarily do a great job of advertising and marketing. I serve on the board over at Midlands Tech, and it's a great technical school, great leaders over there, and it's having the proper funding, I think, for the technical schools, and then really pushing some of these high school students that are coming through to realize that we offer a really competitive job. In some cases, from a wage standpoint, a lot higher than you would actually think. Very competitive benefits, and our environment is not traditional textiles back in the 70s or 60s. I mean, we're 72 degrees plus or minus 2. It's humidity and temperature controlled. So it's a pretty pleasant work environment and really competitive pay.
Well, since you touched on your work with the technical colleges, what would you say to a parent whose child was considering tech school?
I mean, quite honestly, I think the sins of manufacturing past carry with it. So it's the depiction of what a modern manufacturing environment is. And you're talking about, this is advanced manufacturing. This is a highly skilled, some of these machines are $1 million or $2 million, and we have to pre-order them 12 months in advance. So when you're working on it, it's not as if it's a your old 1970 vehicle. This is a Formula One vehicle. In order to make it tune properly and run, there's a high level of skill that's needed in order to make it. So it's really challenging. The environment is really enjoyable, and the pay, at the end of the day, that's what we work for. I mean, we're not independently wealthy, so you have to get paid, and I'd say it's more competitive than some people think. So
Absolutely.
I mean, without throwing out direct numbers, but for people to make $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year is not unheard of.
Straight
in some
out of a
cases.
2-year program. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And once you have that skill, especially with all the employers that are in the state, I mean, that's job security. I mean, if you people are always concerned about where their next paycheck, and manufacturing closes and opens, but you have that ingrained technical background, you will be employable in and around where you live currently for a long, long time, just based really on the economic growth of the manufacturing sector that's been brought to the state.
Well, speaking of the state, what can the state do to attract more companies like Pure Power?
I think they've done a great job. If you look at their recent track record, I think the stat being thrown around is 35,000 plus advanced manufacturing jobs, which it makes it a little more difficult for us, again, to recruit some of our employees. But I think it's the build-up of our technical school system. Okay. I think I can speak confidently for a group of manufacturing leaders. Both, it doesn't make a difference what part of the state you're in. Funding those technical schools appropriately, I think, is a priority one. And I think a majority of your workforce is either going to come from the high school students or adults that are rethinking their current careers to be able to go back, and that's the big pool you want to come into. And again, it's 4-year degrees are good for most. I think that 2-year degree people overlook a little bit. You don't have as much debt coming out too.
That's significant indeed.
It is.
When we were walking around here, you were telling me some of the changes that's going on. What's next for this facility? What's in your future? Well,
we have a new product line coming back in. It's a new injector, actually coming from a facility in North Carolina, in Virginia. So we're really poised to potentially earn 2 or 3 more injector programs in the very near future. So we keep working hard and keeping our quality standards and safety records high as possible, and they generally speak for themselves. And again, I think we offer a pretty competitive or a compelling reason for our customers to be able to put new product in here.
Okay, cool. Stick with us. We're going to come back and speak to Jerry Sweetland a little bit more on Beyond the Pages.